We heard so many times today that you should start with understanding the problems before jumping to conclusions with a solution. So we will start with some problems that may lead people to buy and implement a voice bot. So let's have a go. And I already apologize for torturing you with this, but you have to go through it with me.
Welcome to the conference helpline. Web Summit, press 1. MCE, press 2. AgileByExample, press 3. Conference agenda, press 1. Venue information, press 2. To start a talk, press 3. All of our speakers are currently busy. Please hold and we will start a talk as soon as possible. All of our speakers are currently busy. Please continue to hold.
Not again. No, we've had this. Okay, so apart from listening to some really terrible music made by our UX designer, what were the other problems that we ran into? Well, the problem was there was no one to help us, right? So there were other people calling this conference helpline and we couldn't get the help we needed. What are our other problems that contact centers are struggling with, apart from this annoying queuing? And I'm sure you've been in the situation before where you had to wait in the queue. Limited operating hours, right? We put the kids to sleep, we finally have the moment to do something, and we call, and the call center is closed. Time zones. There are more and more companies who want to serve clients outside of their own time zone, but hey, it's difficult to hire people for the call center in your own time zone, let alone to get them to work at night and serve other time zones. Peaks. Have you ever tried calling your clinic, your GP in the morning? It's a nightmare, right? You'd wait in the line because it's a peak. Afterwards, nobody calls the doctors, but in the morning they do. Same thing with what happens after weather disasters. Like insurance companies get just flooded by phone calls. Variable service quality. If we have an experienced consultant, they will help you really well. If you have someone new, they might have some problems. And of course, we could hire an army of people to do all these things much better and have more people to serve us, but that's going to get a problem of rising costs. And maybe if we hire this army of people, we will no longer be competitive because our product will be too expensive. So, one of the solutions to these problems is implementing a voice bot. And what is a voice bot? Essentially, a voice bot is a computer program which communicates with a user via voice interface rather than graphic user interface. Okay, now how does it work? The client calls our call center, which is served by the bot, and the bot listens. It understands natural language, and it interprets what the person is saying. I'm just going to get some water. What the person is saying. If it needs to obtain some information about the caller, it can integrate with our internal systems, with our CRM or any other system we have. It can obtain data about the caller or about the service that the caller is asking about. It also collects data about the caller, and it collects data about what the person wants. So we can then analyze all the conversations that the bot is having. And finally, it responds. At the moment, it responds in its bit of a robotic voice, but it does the job. And it learns. Okay, and we teach our bot under supervision. We don't let it learn just from the callers, because it's a known story what happened to the Thai bot. I'll let you Google that, but it's quite entertaining. Okay, so our voice bot story. What happened? Well, our client, Jean-Louis David, had exactly the same problems as majority of the call centers and the problems that I've described before. So I want to introduce you to the company. They're the biggest hairdressing and beauty chain in Europe and second in the world. And they have over 70 venues, and they had one helpline. But that's really not important. What the important bit is, we worked with 2 people who were pretty amazing. They were agile without knowing it, right? So they were super decisive, they were very open-minded, and that was the foundation of our project, being able to, oh, don't mind fast tone capture. Okay. Let's just ignore that for a bit. So what are, apart from these people being quite special, what were the tangible factors that helped us build this relationship with them? We had a common goal. What are we automating? But also, what are we not automating? Because I'm sure you understand there was lots of difficult decisions and lots of saying no with tears in our eyes. Communication. We communicated with them all the time. It was a very timely communication. They were happy to see us whenever we needed. We had very lightweight documentation, but we did have it for clarity. And we used feedback a lot. We met for planning and for product reviews. And this is how it worked. How did we do it? This is 2018. So we started off sometime in January, and we kept building some features. We kept saying, no, this is enough. So when we built roughly 4 features, a feature to book an appointment with a hairdresser, cancel that appointment and postpone that appointment, as well as deal with questions we can't deal with. Yeah, so this was the fake feature, but in voice. So someone had a question, and we said, thank you for asking the question. We can't help you yet, but we will soon. So in March, when we had enough of these features, we felt confident that we can now go into production. We put Toki in operation, so our bot, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So this was the time when normally call center people were already at home, and when you called, you only got the answering machine. So this is a bonus, right? So when you called and you were finally able to do something, this is something you couldn't do before. And what did we do? What did we do? We wanted to know our users because, in fact, we didn't have any benchmarks of what to base our thinking on. So we put our headphones on, and we really listened to every conversation. In the beginning, there was only 20, 30 conversations. We literally had red ears all the time, like people laughed at us. But we listened to those calls all the time. What else did we do? Well, we stepped out of our comfort zone, and even our devs called the end users that talked to the bot, the ones that had success and the ones who had real problems and maybe called the bot some nasty names. We also did a lot of monitoring and measuring. What happened next? We kept building, so from these conversations and listening to the bot, we knew that there were some features we need to expand and some features that we need to add. So we kept adding the features, we kept listening to what people had to say, and we kept expanding. So we took some features away because they were never used or they were preventing people from achieving what they needed to achieve. So again, in May, when we felt ready, we actually put Toki in the first line of support 24/7. That meant anytime you called Jean-Louis David helpline, you talked to our bot. The consultants were still there, but they were in the second line of support. And we've continued like this ever since. Of course, not with that sort of intensity, but we've been improving and adding features, removing features of our bot. So what have we experimented with? Should I get rid of this, or I'm not sure why fast tone capture decided to appear, but I don't think I can actually get rid of it. So let's just live with it. Okay, so what did we experiment with? Well, with voice, I will read this to you. With voice, you cannot experiment with buttons because buttons don't exist, but you can experiment with words, with expressions, with word order and dialogue order. So this is what we experimented with. And we experimented with recorded voice versus speech synthesis. And to be able to understand whether our experiments worked or didn't work, we had to build some tools to help us measure that. And of course, these tools were also built in an agile way. First, we had just a spreadsheet, and then they grew and grew and grew into proper analytics tools. So we monitored the bots on 3 levels. We monitored the overall number of conversations and the types of conversations that were happening. We also monitored every single conversation, and we gave these conversations categories. So we were able to understand what types of issues are people calling with? What do they want to do? Because, of course, we had lots of hypotheses. People are going to curse at the bot. Well, sometimes they do, but not really many. People will want to know X. Well, no, they won't. So we did a lot of work in terms of monitoring. What else did we use? We used flow diagrams to actually understand whether our experiments are improving conversion at each point or at each sentence, or in fact, making it worse. And sometimes we had to take our changes back, but we kept experimenting. What are the outcomes? So I said to you in the beginning that we worked very closely with our client, and I want to introduce you to Tomasz, who runs Jean-Louis David in Poland. He's quite a character. He brings his dog to the office. So in the middle of our interview, the dog started barking, so you will see him getting up and sitting back down.
Znaczy tak, na pewno efekt biznesowy podstawowy to jest taki, że mamy bota, który jest czynny 24H, to po pierwsze, czego w ogóle nie mieliśmy wcześniej, więc można zawsze zadzwonić się umówić na wizytę, co jest bardzo istotne. Dzisiaj ludzie chcą mieć wszystko now, teraz, prawda? Więc to jest ten moment, że my to mamy, więc to jest bardzo fajne. Druga sprawa, więc mamy po prostu jakość obsługi bardzo ustandaryzowaną, to znaczy wiemy, co ten bot mówi. A ja nie wiem, co konsultant powie. Nie mam pojęcia. Znaczy różnie. Powie tak, powie inaczej. Natomiast bot to ja po prostu wiem, co on mówi, co mnie cieszy. I to jest jakby pierwsza rzecz. Druga rzecz, jeżeli chcemy robić dosprzedaż, a chcemy ją robić i będziemy ją robić, coraz bardziej będziemy szli w kierunku tego, żeby ten bot był proaktywny, no to wiemy, że wszystkie te gesty prosprzedażowe zostaną wykonane na pewno.
Okay, so you've met Tomasz now. What did he say? He said 3 things. I didn't tell him what to say. He actually said those things on his own. So he said the business outcomes are that he has a bot that works 24/7 and there are never any queues, that the level of service is standardized, and that he has a platform for future development, for example, for cross-selling. Well, okay, so did we get rid of consultants? No, they're still there. They're doing a bit more proactive selling and customer care. But what does our bot do? Well, first of all, since we've gone live, our bot has had over 65,000 conversations. So that's a lot of conversations. It completed over 13,000 transactions like booking an appointment, canceling appointments, and postponing appointments. It has also answered thousands of questions that the users have had. What can it do? Well, it recognizes the caller because it can interact with their CRM, and it knows their preferences, for example, which last venue they've been to. It knows the service availability because it has access to the calendar of the whole company. It negotiates time slots. So if I call and say, I want to come tomorrow at 10 o'clock, the bot will say, well, perhaps 10 o'clock is not available anymore, but how about 9:30 or 11? And it can also suggest alternative venues. It can make those bookings in the system. It can send texts. So again, we had a feature which was, if someone asks what the price of the service is, tell the user, right? But that's really complicated because some of the services are connected, some of the prices vary depending which services you're also buy. So we decided to experiment with a mini feature, which is if someone asks about the prices, we ask, well, would you like to have a text message with a link to the price list? And most people say, yeah, actually, yeah, that's helpful. And it can answer specific questions. Well, unfortunately, it's just a bot, so it can't tell any jokes, even if they're not funny. It can't answer any random questions. So if you ask our bot, what is the current weather in Marrakesh, it just will say, sorry, I didn't understand, right? Because we cannot program it to understand all the random questions people might ask. Mind you, I don't know if a consultant will tell you that either. It cannot tell what the sentiment is of the person. So we do not recognize yet whether the person is happy, upset, or maybe annoyed. What about the consultants? So the consultants, they are currently handling about 10 to 12% of the phone calls. And when do they handle the phone calls? If someone specifically asks, I want to talk to a real human, or give me a consultant here. Also, if someone wants to make an appointment with a very specific hairdresser, if someone just has that favorite Mary and he only will go to Mary to get his haircut, we can't do that yet. But this is also a business decision of our client. And they handle problem calls. So if someone cannot get the bot to do what they want in 3 attempts, we just transfer them to a consultant. Okay, so 4 points to take away. A bot can help you with your contact center and make it available 24/7 with no waiting times. It can automate some of your processes or only steps of processes, but probably not all your processes. A bot and consultant cooperation is definitely possible in different configurations, but this is just a 15-minute talk plus 1 minute I've run over, so I cannot tell you exactly what they are. For this type of project where we have a really new thing, no sort of benchmarks and no good examples from the market, especially in Poland, how to do it, such close team-client partnership is going to make the project better, cheaper, and your product more useful to your users. And finally, the way we did it with going to the market really early, verifying whether our ideas will resonate with people by exposing them to people just after hours, for us was the most useful way of approaching this problem. Thank you.